Hey, what's going on, guys? This is your old pal CHH, and today we're talking about a piece of physical media that I'm so glad to talk about. I didn't know that this was ever going to be available again, from what I understand. Now, here's the thing you have to understand about me. I love a great documentary on a great horror film, and I'm not talking about Crystal Lake Memories or Never Sleep Again, where you go over an entire franchise. No. If it's a great horror film, I want to learn everything about it. I want to learn the ins. I want to learn the outs. I want to learn the stories. I want to learn the stuff that happened. And I want to learn any problems, like not even all the good stuff, but the trials and tribulations. Stuff like that I'm always interested in. And there are some great documentaries on individual horror films. There are certain ones like Unearthed, the Pet Cemetery story, which I believe Synapse put a Blu-ray out for. More Brains, the Return to the Living Dead documentary, which is absolutely fantastic. It's just a masterpiece. There's others. There's even documentaries about It, the original It, where Tommy Lee Wallace and Tim Curry, they break down the entire making of that story, where Tim Curry famously told Tommy Lee Wallace, look, if you need to do all this sort of extra makeup on me besides a clown makeup and doing all this extra stuff, you ain't got the right guy. I'm an actor. Let me act. If you want a scary clown, I'm Tim mother effing Curry. The rest was history. I love Bill Skarsgård's Pennywise performance in those movies. I love them. You ain't never touching Tim Curry as far as I'm concerned. Those are great documentaries, and the It one I think came out from Screambox on Blu-ray like a year or so ago, so check that out. Now, here's something I was so excited when it got announced, guys. Check this out. You're So Cool, Brewster, the making of Fright Night, but that's not it, because I know what a lot of you guys are probably thinking if you don't know what this is. Okay, Christian, awesome. Fright Night's a classic film. You know, it's always great to hear about Fright Night, but what about the sequel? Son of a bitch, stay tuned. We're going to get into that. So, You're So Cool, Brewster, I think was a documentary that came out somewhere in the 2010s. I forget the exact year. Here's the deal with this. This documentary is amazing. Now, I do believe that this had an individual DVD and Blu-ray release at some time. I think it's somewhat out of print, but I remember having a Blu-ray release. I believe it was the Sony release, and I wouldn't be surprised if the 4K Steelbook has it as well. I'll make sure I have a thing on the lower third that says if it was or it wasn't. But I remember watching You're So Cool, Brewster, or I might have even streamed it the first time I actually watched it, whether it had been on Shudder or something, and it was fantastic. The thing about some horror documentaries is some of them are done with a lot of love and passion, but the quality is subpar. Like, I'm going to be totally honest. If you guys remember the Smoke and Mirrors documentary, which was a Tom Savini documentary, could not have been better directed or written, but the audio quality is piss poor. It's like they didn't have any external audio, so when you hear Tom talk, it's just like the mic from the internal camera picks it up, and it's so bad. I hate that. And another thing I love is when you're doing documentaries, it's one thing to have the talking heads with the green screen behind it, but I love it when you see the people that were involved in the movies with a real background, with like real images or posters from the movie. They do that in this, which is so fantastic. And another thing is with documentaries, you want to know like who's going to be involved. That's another thing that's so important, which makes More Brains, the Return to the Living Dead documentary, perfect because the cast is involved in the entire making of. You're So Cool, Brewster just checks all those boxes I talked about. Every single box. You've got Tom Holland, you've got Chris Sarandon, you've got William Ragsdale. You've got the majority of the cast of the film talking about this film, and they go over everything. It's so interesting to learn that Tom Holland wrote Fright Night as a way to combat what was going on in the 80s, which is so ironic considering Fright Night is considered one of the greatest 80s horror films. What do I mean by that? Well, you learn that Tom wrote this film because he felt like all the slasher characters that were becoming so popular were basically pushing aside the classic villains, your Draculas, your Frankensteins, your mummies and wolfmen. And I get that now. It's like at the time, I just felt like when you watch the film as a fan, you just see it as, oh, this is such a great 80s horror film. Like, what would be combating anything about this? But that's what Fright Night was to him. He wanted to make a vampire film that was a throwback to the classic monsters. And it's so funny now when he talks about that. Whenever I was watching the clips from Fright Night, I am instantly transported back to being a very little kid and remembering all those Universal Monster Pepsi and Dorito commercials, which now when I think about Fright Night, I keep thinking about Pepsi and Doritos, which I guess could be, it's not a bad thing. I mean, who doesn't love that era anyway? But like that's a key element that I'm talking about here. Information that can only come from the people directly involved. And that's what I love about this documentary. It's so almost intrusive to a point to where you truly get into the nuts and bolts of this movie. The way everything was set up, the way Chris saw his character as the villain, the way they wanted to approach certain things about the film. It's so well done. It's so well executed. And I even like that the fact they have this guy that portrays like this Peter Vincent-esque character in the beginning who basically does this fun little intro, and they have a funny little segment where he can't say Fright Night. He keeps calling it Fright Fist, Fright Fest. And they've got the set design set up like the old TV show that William Ragsdale's character has. Stuff like that, the production value is there. There's a beautiful credit intro in this that's like a comic book style, too, that reminded me a lot of More Brains, and I know that Gary Smart was involved with this one as well, which I know he was obviously involved with the More Brains documentary, and just Return of the Living Dead in a big, big way. He wrote the complete history book for that, so Gary's imprint is on here in a big way, and I love Gary Smart, so Gary, if you see this, good job, brother. So like I said, this documentary, it's available to watch fairly easily. Like, I think it's streaming. You can stream it. And like I said, I think this documentary might have been on the Blu-ray release. But having this in its own disc feels really good to me because of the fact that I love this documentary. I think it's so well done. And it does feel like a feature film type of documentary. I mean, like, this is not something you watch just willy-nilly. Like, you really want to plan this. You want to sit down and say, I'm going to watch the making of Fright Night because it goes over everything. And seeing all the makeup effects stuff that was done for this, like just in camera, standing behind, you know, the effects people that worked on the film, or Tom Holland, and seeing the big bats in there and the makeup stuff was just amazing. And William Ragsdale just is such a good sport about this movie, too. It's even funny moments where he got a little too comfortable at moments of the film and even yelled cut thinking a scene was done, and Tom Holland quickly told him, you little bastard, I'm the director, not you. And it was all in good fun. So what a documentary this is. This is so good. I love it. It's one of those documentaries that it's so good, you're not going to top this. This documentary covers everything you want to know about Fright Night, which is everything. I mean, I don't know what else they couldn't have covered in this. So I give this documentary a 10 out of 10. Now, the question is, Christian, okay, let's say I have the release, Blu-ray release that already has a documentary, or I've seen the documentary. Why should I get that release? I don't have the actual release itself that this came out with. Well, what's so different about this? This is what's so great about this. As you can see, this is You're So Cool, Brewster, Fright Night documentary 2-disc set. Now, when you reverse the artwork in here, one side shows this art, which is the You're So Cool, Brewster artwork, the making of Fright Night. Now, the other side, which I'm sure you're wondering, well, that's really cool. Maybe they talk about the sequel. Check this out. When you reverse the artwork, you can famously see Julie Carmen there, which is pretty cool. This release has 2 discs. Now, I'll show you this, and we'll look more at this in detail later. There's 2 discs in here. You can see this is a disc 2. So I think when the documentary came out, the You're So Cool, Brewster documentary, they put this as a bonus feature, and this reminds me of the More Brains documentary, where the special features was a 30-minute documentary on Return of the Living Dead 2 and a 20-minute documentary on Return of the Living Dead 3. There is a feature-length, like 90-minute documentary. The original, the part 1 one's like 130 minutes. It's even longer. There is a 90-minute documentary, completely comprehensive, on the making of Fright Night 2 on this release in Disc 2. And it was amazing. Let me tell you something. Julie Carmen, Ragsdale's back, and Tommy Lee Wallace, among other people involved. You remember the guy that eats those bugs in Fright Night 2? That guy, he was the villain in Cobra. He was Buffalo Bob and Joe Dirt. That guy, I forget the actor's name. He is such a likable guy. He loved this role. He talked all about the reason for wanting to have his character do that, where naming the bugs and stuff before he ate them. So comprehensive. It's almost like a shock watching this, because there's so much stuff about Fright Night 2 that we don't know because of the way this movie was released, or kind of not released when it came out, and things of that nature. The thought process of what people thought about it right after it came out. The documentary for that, Fright Night 2, is the real winner for this. And Tommy Lee Wallace talked all about the making of this film. There were some interesting things. There's some stuff I don't want to spoil, but for instance, why was Evil Ed not in this movie? A lot of people loved him from Part 1. Tommy thought he was good, but he almost thought that that character would have been a crutch for Part 2, because Tommy wanted to put his own stamp on this. And we found out that the character Evil Ed, he signed on to do 976 Evil with Robert Englund because he thought it was a better script. Can't really fault the guy, because let's be honest, 976 Evil is a damn near classic, if it isn't just one straight out. But because of that, Tommy Lee Wallace felt a lot better. He wanted to move this thing in a different direction. He wanted to make his own film, and I really appreciate that about Tommy Lee Wallace. And Julie Carmen talked all about not really loving the script, wanted to humanize the character a little bit more, make it less comic booky, which was perfect on her part because most people love Julie just as much as they love Chris in the first movie. They talked about the gentleman who plays like that androgynous skating vampire. I love that stuff. That moment where he's in the hallway with the shadows and he's skating. It's a great image. That guy was Michael Jackson's choreographer, so that guy was a legend. My God, this documentary covered everything. It was fantastic. And like I said, it was feature length, and Tommy goes into everything you want to know about this film. So part 2's documentary, I got to be honest, like when I was watching part 1, I was like, man, this is great. I can't wait to watch part 2. This should be a documentary that, like, when Felsher puts out the part 2 Blu-ray or 4K, whatever it's going to be, I think it's going to be a 4K. If not, it'll be a Blu-ray. But regardless, it'll be great. I think they're going to have some good elements to work with. My point is, I really hope that they can just add this documentary to that release, or if not, the beauty is it's available again right here, and you can get this. Now, I'll talk about where I got this, and we'll look at the release closer up, but what a documentary. The Part 2 documentary was rock and roll. I think you guys would love it if you haven't seen it. On Disc 1, you'll see you've got the 147-minute documentary, and then there's extras. There's What is Fright Night featurette, Writing Horror, Tom Holland featurette, From Apes to Bats, Roddy McDowell featurette, Tom Holland and Amanda Beers talk Fright Night, Roundtable with Tom, Steven, and William, Weekend of Hell panel with Amanda and Steven. And then on Disc 2, you've got the You're So Cool Brewster documentary, which is 85 minutes, and then the Peter Vincent trailers. So there's even extras on here of stuff that was, separated for you to watch in totality from the features, stuff that would make the cut, so to speak. This release is awesome. Now, this is a partner label. This is ETR Media. What that stands for is kind of slipping me. But basically, yeah, this came out in 2016, apparently. So what this release is a partner label from Vinegar Syndrome. I got this off Vinegar Syndrome's website. And talk about a nice-looking release. It's really, really cool what they did. So there's the artwork. It's glossy, but it's not raised. It's a nice, just glossy look. Love the artwork on that. The back has this. They didn't really do like a part 1 and part 2 back. They kind of did. They got some stuff mixed in there. Maybe that's Julie. Maybe this is part 2 on the back. So I really like the artwork. And again, on the slip, you can have the part 1 artwork, and then you can flip this one, which has kind of more so part 2 stuff, but also part 1 stuff. To Fright Night fanatic, who isn't? And I love Fright Night 2 as much as part 1. Some days I think part 2 may be a little bit better. Other days I say, no, it's not. Today I think they're tied. But what a cool release this is. I'm so happy to have this documentary as its own release. I think it deserves that. So if you're interested in that, guys, this is from vinegarsyndrome.com, part of their partner labels. Just check it out. The You're So Cool Brewster Story of Fright Night 2-disc set, guys. Rock and roll. Rock and roll. What an awesome release, guys. Check it out, and let me know if you've seen this documentary. I think it's a classic. Thank you guys for watching. I'll see y'all next time. Huge, giant thank you to all of my Patreon supporters. Without you guys, this would not be possible. To get behind-the-scenes photos, videos, music, private live streams, and much more, you can subscribe to my Patreon for as little as $1 a month. Thank you to my patrons.